The men waiting on this beach are carrying bows. But the most dangerous weapon in this image may not be in their hands. It may be inside the body of the stranger approaching them. And disease is only the first way contact can begin. They are not waiting to be discovered. In many cases, they are trying not to be reached. But the outside world can find them in 4 very different ways. It can arrive in a boat. It can spread through a body. It can cut a road into their hunting grounds. Or it can remove the forest until there is nowhere left to hide. The first of these stories begins on a tropical island that almost everyone recognizes, but almost no outsider is permitted to approach. North Sentinel Island rises from the Bay of Bengal, protected by coral reefs and Indian law. The people living there are known to the outside world as the Sentinelese, a name taken from the island itself. Their own name, their language, and the size of their population remain uncertain. That uncertainty has helped create a profitable myth. In headlines and online videos, the Sentinelese are often reduced to one image: men on a beach aiming arrows at anyone who comes close. But their history with outsiders is not a simple record of constant violence. For decades, official expeditions approached the island and left coconuts and other gifts. In January of 1991, members of one expedition entered the water and passed coconuts directly to Sentinelese men. The exchange was peaceful. The following month, one man came close enough to the contact boat to inspect it. Those moments matter because they reveal something the dangerous tribe label hides. The Sentinelese have shown curiosity, caution, acceptance, and rejection. They were making decisions, not acting from one permanent instinct. The era of gift-dropping missions ended in 2005. India now protects a buffer around the island and monitors it from a distance. This policy is not based on the belief that the Sentinelese are incapable of change. It is based on the understanding that outsiders do not have the right to force that change upon them. In 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Chow paid fishermen to take him near the island illegally. He wanted to convert the Sentinelese to Christianity. They repeatedly warned him away. He returned, and he was killed. The story spread around the world as proof that the island was deadly. But from the beach, the danger looked different. Chow did not need to carry a weapon to threaten the community. Simply approaching them without medical controls created a risk that they had never accepted. No epidemic is known to have followed his visit. That distinction is essential. The danger was not a confirmed infection. It was an uncontrolled exposure with consequences no one could predict or quickly contain. North Sentinel shows us the moment before that chain begins. To understand what can happen after it begins, we have to travel to the western Amazon, where an earlier contact left immeasurable human cost. The Vale do Javari is a vast indigenous territory near Brazil's border with Peru. It contains the greatest confirmed concentration of isolated indigenous groups in the world. It is also home to contacted peoples with different histories, including the Matis. The Matis are not an uncontacted people today. Their story belongs here because it records what the word's first contact can conceal. Sustained contact with Brazilian authorities developed during the late 1970s. Outsiders brought tools, supplies, and a promise of connection. They also brought infections. Between June of 1981 and June of 1982, approximately 48 Matis died during 2 influenza epidemics that rapidly developed into pneumonia. The number may look small on a page. Inside a small community, it was devastating. People did not die in isolation from the rest of society. Children lost parents. Families lost people who knew hunting routes, medicines, stories, ceremonies, and seasonal movements. Survivors left some communal houses and moved closer to a government post where treatment was available. Access to medicine could save lives, but the sudden dependence also changed where and how people lived. This was not caused by a mysterious weakness shared by every indigenous person. Risk depends on the disease, previous exposure, vaccination, population size, nutrition, and the speed and quality of medical care. And the Mate were not an isolated exception. Researchers examining historical records identified more than 100 contact-related epidemics across dozens of indigenous societies in Greater Amazonia. Influenza, measles, and malaria caused most of the recorded deaths. The same research also found that survival improved when modern medical care arrived quickly. Contact is not automatically a death sentence. Unplanned contact without preparation is the danger. Brazil changed its approach in the late 1980s. Instead of treating every sighting as an invitation to establish contact, protection teams increasingly focused on defending territories and allowing isolated peoples to decide whether a relationship should begin. They monitor signs such as gardens, paths, shelters, and clearings without entering settlements. Exact locations are kept secret because a map that helps protect a community can also guide miners, missionaries, or traffickers toward it. The lesson from the Matis is not that the outside world must ignore isolated peoples. Protection still requires patrols, medical contingency plans, and cooperation with neighboring indigenous communities. The lesson is that help delivered without restraint can become another form of danger. If you value documentaries that look beyond the myth, give this video a like and subscribe to Real Destination. Because in Peru, the next community is showing how contact can become more likely, even when no official expedition is trying to make it happen. The Mashco Piro move through the forests of southeastern Peru. Much of their population remains in isolation, traveling between protected reserves and river basins according to water levels, food, and the need to avoid outsiders. Their isolation has a history. During the rubber boom, raiders pursued and captured indigenous people across the region. Peruvian government records describe how the Mashco Piro were forced toward more remote areas, while violence and epidemics reduced indigenous populations around them. Today, their presence is sometimes visible on riverbanks. These appearances are often described as if a hidden people have suddenly emerged from the past. But the forest tells another story. Some movements are seasonal. During drier periods, river beaches can provide food and easier travel. Other appearances have occurred close to villages, logging concessions, and new infrastructure. That does not prove a single cause. It does show that the spaces separating them from outsiders are becoming harder to preserve. In 2024, images showed dozens of Mashco Piro people near the Las Piedras River, close to areas where logging was active. Deadly encounters between Mashco Piro people and logging workers have also occurred. In 2025, advocates reported sightings near a bridge being constructed to carry machinery farther into the forest. Peru's Ministry of Culture said it was reviewing the report. A bridge does not need to reach a settlement to transform the risk. It allows trucks to travel during seasons when mud once stopped them. It brings workers, fuel, waste, noise, and more opportunities for an encounter. A narrow structure across a stream can connect a remote forest to an industrial supply chain. That is how contact changes from a decision into a collision. The Mashco Piro may appear at the edge of a river without asking for a permanent relationship. Neighboring indigenous communities can become the first people forced to respond. They must protect their own families while avoiding gestures that could be misunderstood. Food, clothing, and tools may look like immediate help, but repeated gifts can draw people towards settlements and increase exposure. The safest response is rarely dramatic. It requires trained interpreters, controlled distances, health teams kept ready but not pushed forward, and territory large enough for the isolated group to move away. But what happens when the territory itself can no longer move with them? For that, we leave the Amazon and enter the Gran Chaco of Paraguay. This is a dry forest of thorny trees, dust, grasslands, and severe heat. It is also home to members of the Ayoreo Totobiegosode people who continue living in voluntary isolation. Not every Ayoreo person is isolated. Settled Ayoreo communities include relatives of those who remain in the forest, and they have spent years defending that forest on their behalf. Their testimony changes the story again. The isolated people are not unknown figures with no connection to the present. They are family. Here, the central threat is not a visitor stepping onto a beach. It is the conversion of forest into cattle pasture. A road divides hunting grounds. A fence blocks movement toward water. Machinery clears plants that provide food, medicine, shelter, and information about the seasons. The people, avoiding contact, may hear the outside world before they see it. An engine in the distance can mean that another route through the forest is about to disappear. In 2004, reports from the territory connected forest clearance with the arrival of one isolated Totobiegosode group among settled relatives. That was not a community freely choosing between two equal futures. The physical space supporting isolation was shrinking around them. The danger was serious enough that in 2016, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights called for urgent protective measures. It asked Paraguay to prevent outsiders from entering recognized Totobiegosode territory and to stop deforestation there. The purpose was not to preserve people as a museum exhibit. It was to preserve their ability to choose. This is the final form of contact. No handshake is required. No boat needs to land. If the forest is cut into disconnected islands, the people inside can be forced toward roads, ranches, and settlements. By the time an outsider finally sees them, the decisive encounter may have happened months earlier, when a bulldozer crossed an invisible boundary. 4 cases reveal 4 stages of the same process. The Sentinelese show the approach. The Mattis reveal the medical chain that can follow. The Mashco Piro show outside pressure, narrowing the distance. The isolated Totobiegosode show what happens when distance itself is removed. This does not mean every encounter ends in catastrophe. With preparation, immediate medical care, protected territory, and respect for Indigenous leadership, lives can be saved. Nor does isolation mean people must remain unchanged forever. Change is present in every human society. The real question is who controls it. That is why the most responsible form of contact may be the one that never happens. Not because these peoples belong to the past, but because their future belongs to them. And if you think the label Uncontacted creates dangerous myths, the label Most Dangerous Tribe can be even more deceptive. Subscribe to Real Destination and become a channel member to support more videos like this one. And now, keep exploring. Watch the documentary appearing on your screen and continue discovering the hidden places, stories, and realities that most of the world never gets to see.